Right now, as you witness these words, you are not stationary. You are hurtling through the vacuum of space at a staggering speed of over 2 million kilometers per hour. You are not merely drifting. You are in a state of freefall. The very galaxy that cradles our existence, this massive, spiraling metropolis of billions of stars, is being pulled, violently and relentlessly, toward a destination shrouded in absolute, impenetrable darkness. Imagine a predator so immense, so incomprehensibly heavy, that its mere existence distorts the fabric of reality itself. Astronomers call this the Great Attractor, but that label feels pitifully inadequate for what it truly is: a silent, invisible machine of cosmic consumption that feeds on the curvature of space itself. Our most sophisticated instruments, the collective pride of human engineering, have spent decades attempting to pierce the veil, hoping to glimpse what lurks in the direction of our inevitable path. They fail. Every time we turn our gaze toward the region of the constellation Centaurus, we are met with a wall of absolute nothingness. We are effectively trapped behind a celestial curtain of our own making, blinded by the thick, choking clouds of dust and light of our home galaxy, forced to stare into a void that refuses to be observed. Consider the terrifying insignificance of our solar system against this scale. We are but a microscopic speck of dust, caught in the grip of a galactic hurricane, spiraling toward a gravity well wide enough to swallow entire civilizations without ever blinking. What happens when we eventually reach the heart of this abyss? Is there a structure out there that defies the fundamental laws of physics? A behemoth that should not exist, simply waiting to dismantle our neighborhood of space into ribbons of light? We are accelerating toward a silence so profound that it makes the vastness of the universe feel claustrophobic. We are not merely travelers in the cosmos. We are the hunted, pursued by a gravity we cannot see, cannot touch, and, most terrifying of all, cannot comprehend. Humanity has long harbored a quiet arrogance regarding our place in the cosmos, an illusion of mastery born from the polished lenses and meticulously engineered mirrors of our greatest observatories. We have peered to the very edges of time, capturing the faint, dying light of the universe's first dawn, and mapping the intricate, three-dimensional webs of dark matter that bind the cosmos together. We pride ourselves on the ability to dissect the chemical breath of exoplanets orbiting distant suns, and to witness the violent collisions of black holes across billions of light-years. Yet this profound optical omnipotence shatters into absolute irrelevance when we attempt to look into our own immediate future, into the exact trajectory where our entire galactic neighborhood is being violently dragged. When our most sophisticated instruments, the collective mechanical eyes of human civilization, pivot toward the constellations of Centaurus and Norma, they are met with a suffocating, impenetrable blindness. We are effectively trapped inside a cage of our own making, a celestial prison wardened by the very galaxy that gives us life. This massive blind spot, a sprawling region that consumes roughly 20% of our entire night sky, is known within the halls of astrophysics as the Zone of Avoidance. The name itself carries a chilling weight, sounding less like a scientific classification and more like an ancient warning carved into the edge of a map where dragons dwell. The universe has orchestrated a cruel and terrifying geometric coincidence. We reside within the disk of the Milky Way, a flattened, swirling metropolis of hundreds of billions of stars, and we are situated far out in its dusty suburbs. Because we are embedded deep within this galactic plane, attempting to look out into the wider universe along the equator of our own galaxy is akin to standing in the middle of a dense, raging blizzard and trying to observe the distant mountains. The space between the stars is not empty. It is choked with interstellar dust, the cold, microscopic corpses of ancient stellar explosions, and vast, swirling clouds of primordial gas. A single grain of this cosmic dust is entirely insignificant, a trivial speck of carbon or silicate that would float unnoticed in the air of a terrestrial room. But when multiplied across a distance of 100,000 light-years, this dust accumulates into an insurmountable, light-devouring fortress wall. It forms a dense band of obscuration that acts as a physical blindfold tightly wrapped around the Earth. As the light from whatever colossal entity lies beyond travels toward us, carrying the visual evidence of the predator pulling us through the void, it strikes this galactic shroud and simply dies. The visible spectrum is absorbed, the ultraviolet is scattered, and the visual data is irrevocably erased from existence before it can ever reach our waiting telescopes. It is a profound demonstration of the scale of insignificance. All the technological prowess of humanity, all our deep space arrays and orbital observatories are rendered entirely, utterly useless by mere clouds of cold dirt drifting in our local neighborhood. We are like microscopic insects trapped inside a thickly smeared glass bottle, completely unaware of the gargantuan hand that is currently lifting the bottle and carrying it away into the dark. What makes the zone of avoidance truly terrifying is not just that it exists, but precisely where it exists. The exact vector of our universal freefall, the focal point of the massive gravitational gravity well that is currently accelerating the Milky Way, the Andromeda Galaxy, and our entire local group through space at millions of kilometers per hour, points directly into the thickest, most opaque heart of this dusty veil. The predator is hiding perfectly within our own shadow. We can feel its pull. We can measure the brutal, overwhelming force it exerts on the fabric of space-time, warping the very geometry of the universe around us. But we cannot look it in the eye. Optical astronomy, the foundation of human cosmic understanding, is completely paralyzed here. The grand maps of the universe that adorn our walls and screens, showcasing the beautiful, glowing filaments of superclusters and the vast, empty voids between them, harbor a violent, jagged scar right across their center. This is the Zone of Avoidance, a region where data perishes and where the known laws of physics seem to buckle under the weight of an unseen leviathan. The realization that we are plunging headlong toward an invisible mass equivalent to tens of thousands of galaxies, while simultaneously being blindfolded by the remnants of our own dead stars, evokes a primal, cosmic horror. It strips away our comforting delusion of control and reveals the stark reality of our existence. We are adrift in an ocean of dark, violent currents, at the mercy of a gravitational machine so vast that it turns our entire galaxy into a mere speck of debris caught in its undertow. We cannot see the jaws of the trap, nor can we measure the teeth of the machinery waiting for us in the dark. We are left staring at a wall of cosmic smoke, desperately trying to interpret the silence of the void, knowing only that whatever lies behind the curtain possesses the power to drag our entire corner of the universe into an unknown and perhaps violent oblivion. When astrophysicists first gathered the data from the cosmic microwave background, they were searching for the elegant mathematics of a uniformly expanding universe. They expected to find a serene, cooling ember of the initial creation event, a testament to a cosmos that was expanding outward in all directions with perfect, balanced harmony. What they found instead was a terrifying aberration that shattered their models and introduced a creeping dread into the halls of astrophysics. The numbers did not lie, and the numbers declared that the universe was actively conspiring against our stationary existence. The realization was not a sudden explosion of discovery, but a slow, chilling dawn of awareness. As the thermal maps of the universe grew more detailed, a massive, undeniable directional vector emerged. Half of the entire observable sky burns with a microscopic but undeniable fever, shifted toward the higher frequencies of the blue spectrum. The opposing half of the celestial sphere is bruised with a chilling red, stretched and cooled into lower frequencies. This cosmic bruising is the Dipole Anomaly, and it is the physical footprint of the monster lurking in the dark. To grasp the horror of this observation, one must understand the behavior of light when subjected to violent motion. When a sound source races toward you, the waves compress, screeching into a higher pitch. Light obeys a similar law, but its medium is the fabric of space itself. The universe is not inherently lopsided. The ancient radiation left over from the dawn of time is, by all fundamental laws of physics, a perfectly balanced, static ocean of thermal energy. Therefore, the stark division of temperature across our night sky can mean only one thing. We are the ones in motion. We are the ones disrupting the stillness. The blue shift in the primordial light is not an inherent feature of the cosmos. It is the ultimate, undeniable speedometer of our doom. We are plowing furiously into the radiation of the Big Bang, crashing through the oldest light in existence. The chilling redshift behind us is the fading echo of the space we are violently leaving behind. This temperature difference is not a mere astronomical curiosity. It is the confession of the universe that the Milky Way is not drifting aimlessly, but is being forcibly, relentlessly dragged toward an epicenter of unimaginable mass. Consider for a moment the scale of insignificance that this reality imposes upon humanity. Human beings measure their lives in mere decades, rooted to a tiny sphere of rock and liquid water. We find comfort in the gentle, predictable orbit of our planet around a yellow sun, believing ourselves to be stationary, safe, and isolated from the chaos of the void. But this is the grandest of cosmic illusions. Beneath our feet, the Earth is not simply spinning. It is trapped in the gravitational embrace of a star that is hurtling through the spiraling, dusty arm of the Milky Way galaxy. And the Milky Way itself, a sprawling metropolis of hundreds of billions of stars carrying the entirety of human history, every triumph, every tragedy, every memory ever forged, is entirely powerless. We are caught in a massive, invisible riptide that dwarfs the very concept of size. Imagine the Earth not as a world, but as an infinitesimal subatomic speck of foam riding the crest of a dark, roaring tsunami that spans hundreds of millions of light years. Our Sun, our entire solar system, our neighboring galaxies and the local group are nothing more than helpless, paralyzed passengers trapped inside a colossal vehicle whose brakes have entirely failed, plunging down a gravity well of unfathomable proportions. The Dipole Anomaly strips away the comforting delusion of our autonomy. It reveals that the fundamental forces dictating our ultimate fate are not the familiar cycles of nature, but the brute, tyrannical mechanics of mass, operating on a scale that shatters the human mind. The entity concealed behind the Zone of Avoidance is not merely resting in the dark. Its gravitational tendrils have reached across the void, silently slipping through the vacuum to wrap tightly around the core of our galactic home. It acts as a cosmic puppeteer, and its strings are forged from the very curvature of space-time itself. The fact that we can measure our exact velocity, clocking our descent at over 2 million kilometers per hour, offers no solace whatsoever. Instead, it amplifies the profound horror of our situation. We possess a mathematically precise measurement of the speed at which we are being hauled into the abyss, yet we remain entirely, terrifyingly ignorant of the face of the executioner holding the chains. This scenario represents the absolute pinnacle of existential helplessness. We are moving far too rapidly to ever alter our course, bound by the ironclad, unforgiving laws of celestial mechanics to continue this plummet until the end of time. The shifting colors of the universe's oldest light serve as a silent, continuous warning siren, a visual alarm screaming that we have crossed an invisible threshold of influence from which there is no escape. The Great Attractor is not simply a coordinate on a cosmic map. It is an active, ravenous machine of consumption. By analyzing the dipole, we are essentially standing on a dark beach, watching the ocean water violently recede from the shoreline, knowing that a massive, world-ending wave is building in the pitch-black distance. But in this cosmic nightmare, the wave is a concentrated, crushing mass of dark matter and ancient, dying galaxies, and we are the ones rushing blindly toward its maw. Every single second that ticks by, our entire civilization travels hundreds of kilometers closer to a region of space that we cannot even observe, guided by the invisible, crushing hand of a structure that possesses the gravitational appetite of tens of thousands of Milky Ways. We are utterly blindfolded, shackled to a colossal weight, and thrown into a bottomless ocean of vacuum, forced to measure the velocity of our own demise by the shifting temperature of the silent void rushing past us. It is as if humanity has awakened in the middle of a pitch-black ocean, only to realize that the faint, distant roar of water is not the ambient noise of the sea, but the sound of an approaching, inescapable waterfall. We are not just drifting. We are being summoned. The gravitational pull of this unseen anomaly does not care for the delicate balance of our solar system. It does not recognize the fragile, thin layer of atmosphere that protects our biology, nor does it care about the magnificent technological monuments we have built upon the dirt of our small world. Gravity is the ultimate, uncaring dictator of the cosmos. It cannot be negotiated with, it cannot be shielded against, and it cannot be outrun. It reaches through the dark, an invisible, ghostly appendage of the Great Attractor, grabbing hold of every single atom in our bodies, every drop of water in our oceans, and every star in our night sky, pulling them all in unison. We cannot feel this acceleration because everything around us, our entire local universe, is falling at the exact same terrifying speed. It is a free fall so immense and so perfectly synchronized that it masquerades as absolute stillness. This is the true, insidious nature of the monster. It has robbed us of our spatial independence without us even noticing. If we were to look exclusively at the stars immediately surrounding us, we would remain blissfully ignorant of our impending doom. The local stars are falling alongside us, maintaining their relative distances, creating a facade of tranquility. It is only by looking at the very edge of the observable universe, by measuring the feverish blue shift of the primordial light, that the illusion is violently broken. The cosmic microwave background acts as the absolute frame of reference, the stationary canvas against which our violent motion is finally exposed. We are painting a streak of kinetic energy across the oldest light in existence, and the trajectory leads directly into the heart of the Zone of Avoidance. We are essentially riding inside a glass elevator whose cables have been cleanly severed, plummeting down a pitch-black shaft. We look at the other passengers in the elevator, our neighboring planets and our local stars, and because they are falling at the same exact rate, they appear to be floating peacefully. But the numbers carved into the light of the cosmic microwave background tell the true, horrific story. They are the rushing walls of the elevator shaft, screaming past us, confirming that the ground is approaching fast. The scale of this movement makes an absolute mockery of human ambition. We build rockets to travel a few hundred kilometers above our atmosphere, celebrating these microscopic hops as monumental achievements of our species, while completely ignoring the terrifying fact that our entire planet is being dragged hundreds of kilometers through deep space every single second by a force we cannot even name. We are a species of microscopic parasites hitching a ride on a grain of sand, entirely oblivious to the fact that the sand is caught in a catastrophic cosmic landslide. And at the bottom of this landslide lies a region of space so heavy, so incredibly dense, that it bends the very rules of reality to its will, waiting patiently to swallow us whole. To truly comprehend the horror of the Great Attractor, one must abandon the comforting, localized mechanics of gravity that govern our everyday terrestrial existence. We are intimately familiar with gravity as a gentle tether, the invisible force that brings a thrown stone back to the soil and keeps our fragile atmosphere clinging to the crust of the Earth. We observe it scaling up to orchestrate the elegant clockwork orbits of planets around our local star, providing a false sense of eternal stability. However, when multiplied by the mass of tens of thousands of entire galaxies, gravity ceases to be a mere physical law and transforms into a catastrophic, reality-bending tyrant. According to the foundational principles of modern astrophysics, the universe is not a static stage. It is a dynamic, stretching fabric. Since the very dawn of time, a pervasive, chilling phenomenon known as dark energy has been relentlessly driving the cosmos apart, expanding the terrifying voids between galaxy clusters and ensuring that the universe will ultimately die in a cold, lonely freeze. Dark energy is the undisputed, unstoppable victor of the cosmic arena, a force so absolute that it dictates the ultimate fate of all existence. Yet, in our specific, cursed sector of the cosmos, this universal law of expansion is being violently, brutally overpowered. The Great Attractor stands as a monstrous anomaly, a localized rebellion against the decree of dark energy. While the rest of the universe rushes outward, expanding into the cold unknown, our entire galactic neighborhood is doing the exact opposite. We are being violently reeled inward. This implies that whatever entity lurks behind the blinding dust of the Zone of Avoidance possesses a mass so incomprehensibly concentrated, so overwhelmingly heavy, that it creates a localized pocket of collapsing reality. It is a cosmic undertow that grabs the very fabric of space-time and wrings it out like a wet cloth, forcing hundreds of thousands of galaxies to swim upstream against the expanding current of the universe. To visualize this, one must not think of the Great Attractor as a simple object, like a massive star or a giant black hole, but rather as a gaping, unhealed wound in the geometry of the cosmos. Albert Einstein taught humanity that mass dictates the curvature of space, bending the invisible geometry of the vacuum to create the illusion of a pulling force. If our sun creates a gentle dimple in this fabric, and a supermassive black hole creates a deep, steep well, then the Great Attractor is a catastrophic collapse of the trampoline itself. It is an abyss of such profound depth and width that the surrounding architecture of the universe simply caves in toward it. We are not merely falling toward a destination. The space beneath us is actively collapsing, dragging everything within a radius of hundreds of millions of light years down into its crushing center. This invisible behemoth does not negotiate. It does not exert its will gradually. It operates as an omnipotent, unseen leviathan of consumption, a majestic and terrifying machine that grinds the foundational rules of physics into dust. When we consider the scale of insignificance at play here, the human mind instinctively recoils. We look up at the night sky and marvel at the majestic spiral arms of our Milky Way, a sprawling empire of hundreds of billions of nuclear furnaces, pregnant with stardust, wandering planets, and perhaps countless unseen civilizations. We view our galaxy as an indomitable fortress of light and matter. Yet, to the Great Attractor, the Milky Way is absolutely nothing. It is less than a solitary grain of sand caught in a catastrophic landslide. Entire galaxies, majestic structures that take light hundreds of thousands of years to cross, are reduced to the equivalent of helpless, microscopic plankton being swallowed by the gaping maw of a deep-sea predator. The gravitational pull of this anomaly is so absolute that it strips galaxies of their autonomy, shearing away their outer halos of dark matter and distorting their shapes as they are marched toward the execution block. The true cosmic horror lies in the silence and invisibility of this process. There is no brilliant flash of light warning us of the impending crush, no cosmic shockwave to announce the presence of the predator. There is only the cold, hard mathematics of our relentless acceleration. The entity acts as a silent vacuum, inhaling the cosmic structure around it with a terrifying mechanical efficiency. As we plunge deeper into its gravitational sphere of influence, the density of matter around us will inevitably increase. Galaxies will be forced closer together, their relative velocities rising until the peaceful, dark voids of space are replaced by a chaotic, violent swarm of colliding stellar systems. The Great Attractor is essentially gathering the raw material of the universe, hoarding galaxies like a dragon hoarding gold. pulling them into a dark, suffocating embrace from which not even the expanding momentum of the Big Bang can save them. We are witnessing the slow, agonizing death of our local universe's independence. Every atom that constitutes our bodies, every drop of liquid water on our oceans, every monument we have ever carved from stone is already claimed by this invisible master. We belong to the Great Attractor. It has cast its net across the cosmic ocean, and we are merely waiting for the snare to pull tight. The realization that our entire existence, our entire history, and our entire future are being dictated by a localized tear in the fabric of reality, an entity so dense that it ignores the fundamental expansion of the cosmos itself, forces humanity to confront its absolute fragility. We are passengers on a doomed vessel, sailing upon a collapsing sea, entirely at the mercy of a gravitational storm that we can neither see nor comprehend, hurtling toward a dark, heavy core where the laws of physics as we know them may simply cease to function. Even though the optical eyes of humanity are hopelessly blinded by the dense cosmic smog of our own Milky Way, the universe cannot entirely conceal a slaughterhouse of this magnitude. When astrophysicists realized that visible light was a dead end, they turned to the invisible spectrum, tuning their instruments to catch the high-energy screams of dying matter. Through the lens of X-ray and radio astronomy, wavelengths that can pierce through the dust like a ghost walking through a solid wall, the terrifying silhouette of the beast finally began to materialize from the darkness. What they found residing at the theoretical heart of the Great Attractor was not a singular, elegant sphere of mass, but a chaotic, hyperdense graveyard of celestial titans known as the Norma Cluster. To call the Norma Cluster a gathering of galaxies is a gross understatement. It is a cosmic abattoir, a brutally efficient crushing machine where the majestic structures of the universe go to be violently dismantled. Imagine a whirlpool of unimaginable proportions, not made of water, but of the very fabric of space, and at its center lies a crucible of immense gravity that demands absolute sacrifice. The Norma Cluster represents the gaping maw of the predator we are falling towards, a region of space so overcrowded and gravitationally dominant that it has fundamentally altered the thermal landscape of the void. As thousands upon thousands of galaxies, many far larger and more ancient than our own Milky Way, are relentlessly dragged into the core of this cluster, they do not arrive peacefully. They are pulled in like swarms of helpless moths plunging blindly into a raging, unquenchable fire. As these magnificent islands of stars, each harboring billions of planetary systems, fall deeper into the gravity well, they are subjected to tidal forces so extreme that they defy human comprehension. The beautiful, delicate spiral arms that took billions of years to form are brutally stretched, unwound, and ripped apart by the sheer gravitational shear of neighboring galaxies. It is a macabre, slow-motion cosmic cannibalism, where galaxies collide and tear chunks of stars and dark matter from one another in a desperate, futile dance of death. The space between these falling galaxies, the intergalactic medium, which is typically an abyss of freezing, empty vacuum, is transformed into a superheated furnace. As colossal clouds of primordial gas are violently compressed by the combined gravity of 1,000 converging galaxies, the friction generates heat on an apocalyptic scale. The void itself boils at tens of millions of degrees, radiating a blinding, furious X-ray glow that serves as the only beacon warning us of the carnage taking place in the dark. This is the true nature of the gravitational tyrant pulling us in. Gravity is not just a tether. It is the ultimate, indifferent executioner of the cosmos. Inside the heart of the Norma Cluster, supermassive black holes, once resting quietly at the centers of their respective galaxies, are thrown into catastrophic mergers, awakening into ravenous quasars that spew out jets of lethal radiation, sterilizing entire sectors of space within seconds. stars are hurled out of their orbits, condemned to wander the superheated darkness as rogue orphans, while others are smashed together in the chaotic, crowded traffic of the collapsing cluster. When we apply the scale of insignificance to this horrific revelation, the human mind threatens to buckle under the weight of the implications. We sit upon our microscopic grain of silicate and water, endlessly debating our trivial terrestrial conflicts, entirely oblivious to the fact that our entire solar system is strapped to a celestial vehicle headed directly into this cosmic furnace. The Milky Way is not on a journey of exploration. It is in a queue for the Slaughterhouse. The gravitational machine waiting for us at the core of the Norma Cluster does not differentiate between a lifeless asteroid and a planet teeming with conscious thought. It will indiscriminately grab the Milky Way, strip away our dark matter halo, and violently smash our billions of stars into the chaotic, superheated swarm of the cluster. The skies of whatever world survived the initial infall will be illuminated not by a few distant constellations, but by the terrifying, blinding glare of neighboring galaxies tearing each other apart, a night sky engulfed in the fires of cosmic destruction. We are accelerating toward a region where the architecture of the universe itself is crushed into a chaotic, boiling soup of matter and energy. The Norma Cluster is a stark, terrifying reminder that the universe is not a peaceful sanctuary designed for our contemplation. It is a violent, churning ocean where the big indiscriminately devour the small, and where gravity acts as an unstoppable, insatiable beast that will eventually drag everything into the dark. The realization that this titanic cosmic collision is not just an abstract astrophysical theory, but our exact, unavoidable destiny, casts a pall of existential dread over our very existence. The Great Attractor is feeding. The Norma Cluster is its blood-soaked maw, and the Milky Way, along with every memory, every achievement, and every living creature it holds, is simply the next agonizingly slow bite. The ultimate realization of our cosmic insignificance requires a fundamental, violent destruction of everything humanity has ever considered vast. For centuries, we have obsessively drawn maps, seeking to anchor our fragile existence to a comprehensible geography. We mapped the continents of our lonely sphere, then traced the elliptical paths of the solar system, and eventually, with a profound sense of triumph, we charted the swirling, majestic spiral arms of the Milky Way. We looked upon our galactic home, a sprawling metropolis of hundreds of billions of suns spanning 100,000 light-years, and allowed ourselves the comforting delusion that we resided within a structure of ultimate, undeniable consequence. We categorized our local neighborhood, a small gathering of neighboring galaxies we quaintly named the local group, believing it to be a massive, sovereign archipelago floating freely in the endless cosmic ocean. This was a profound, arrogant miscalculation. The true architecture of the universe does not respect the artificial borders drawn by human astrophysics, nor does it care for our desperate need to feel significant. When astrophysicists finally stopped looking merely at where galaxies were positioned in the dark and began to measure how they were flowing, the comforting illusion of our cosmic autonomy shattered completely. They were no longer mapping static islands of light. They were mapping the deep, invisible currents of a raging cosmic ocean. By tracing the velocity fields of thousands of galaxies, tracking their silent, synchronized drift through the vacuum, a terrifying new geography began to emerge from the darkness. The isolated galactic islands we thought we knew were suddenly revealed to be nothing more than microscopic, interconnected droplets caught in a colossal, unified downpour. The boundaries of our known reality were violently pushed outward, revealing a superstructure so incomprehensibly massive that it reduces the entire Milky Way to a trivial, nearly invisible speck of dust. We call this monstrous cosmic continent Laniakea. In the Hawaiian language, the name translates to immeasurable heaven, a poetic and serene title that fundamentally betrays the terrifying reality of its nature. Laniakea is not a heaven. It is the sprawling, macabre anatomy of a gravitational leviathan. It is a supercluster of galaxies spanning over 500 million light-years across, a dark, churning web containing the mass of 100 million billion suns. To gaze upon the map of Laniakea is to look upon something that feels profoundly, disturbingly biological. It does not resemble a random scattering of celestial bodies. Instead, it looks exactly like a colossal neural network glowing faintly in the abyss, or the sprawling infinite root system of a diseased ancient tree. It is composed of vast, shimmering filaments of dark matter and galaxies, thick veins of cosmic structure that stretch across hundreds of millions of light-years, weaving together in a complex, terrifying tapestry of gravitational bondage. We are trapped inside the anatomy of a cosmic beast. When we attempt to pinpoint the exact location of the human race within this gargantuan structure, the scale of our insignificance becomes suffocating. We are not located at the radiant, bustling center of this supercluster. We do not hold a place of cosmic privilege. If you were to trace the sprawling, branch-like veins of Laniakea outward, past the dense, glowing intersections of thousands of galaxies, far out into the most desolate, impoverished outskirts of the structure, you would find a tiny, frayed capillary of matter hanging on the very edge of the abyss. There, upon that microscopic, forgotten fringe, resides the Milky Way, our entire galaxy containing every star we have ever named, every planet we have ever discovered, and the entire sum of human history is nothing more than a solitary, insignificant, parasitic spore clinging to the extreme outermost leaf of a monstrous cosmic tree. We are so far removed from the core, so deeply buried in the trivial outskirts, that our entire existence is a mathematical rounding error in the overall mass of the supercluster. Yet despite our profound distance from the center, we are fully, inescapably bound by its internal mechanics. Laniakea operates precisely like a colossal, terrifying circulatory system, and its mechanics dictate the inescapable doom of everything within its borders. In the terrestrial world, we understand the concept of a watershed, a region of land where all flowing water, from every microscopic raindrop to every roaring river, is dictated by the topography to flow downward into a single, centralized basin. Laniakea is a cosmic gravitational watershed. The shimmering filaments and veins of galaxies are not static structures. They are roaring, slow-motion rivers of dark matter and stellar material, all cascading downward along the invisible slopes of curved space-time. Every single galaxy within this 500 million light-year span is caught in this relentless, synchronized flow. And all of these cosmic rivers, all of these hundreds of thousands of galaxies, are flowing toward exactly one place. They are draining into the deepest, darkest valley of the gravitational watershed. The beating heart of this cosmic leviathan, the central valve toward which all the galactic blood of Laniakea is being furiously pumped, is the Great Attractor. It is the focal point of the entire supercluster, the absolute bottom of the gravity well. The realization that Laniakea is not merely a region of space, but an active, flowing mechanism of consumption introduces a profound philosophical dread. When we look up at the night sky from the surface of our small rocky world, we perceive a profound stillness. The stars appear fixed, the constellations permanent, and the cosmos silent. But this is the ultimate deception of scale. In reality, our entire galaxy is a single, helpless red blood cell trapped inside a massive vein, being violently flushed through the circulatory system of a structure that dwarfs our comprehension. The Great Attractor is not merely a distant anomaly. It is the dominant, defining feature of our entire region of the universe, the gravitational master of our supercluster. The sheer mechanical horror of Laniakea is that it is a system perfectly designed for accumulation and destruction. The microscopic inhabitants of Earth, entirely oblivious to the monumental currents carrying them, are participating in a migration that began billions of years ago. We are tumbling down the gravitational slopes of the Laniakea Supercluster, sliding along the dark matter filaments, drawn inexorably toward the crushing density of the Norma Cluster at its core. This map of insignificance completely redefines the nature of our trajectory. We are not being pulled by a rogue object passing in the night. We are simply following the natural, inescapable topography of the universe we were born into. The Great Attractor is the drain at the bottom of our cosmic bathtub, and the Milky Way is caught in the swirling, inevitable vortex of the descending water. Every scientific measurement, every red-shifted photon we capture, confirms that this sprawling, biological-looking machine is functioning with terrifying efficiency, slowly but surely gathering the scattered remnants of our local universe and dragging them into the suffocating dark. The most profound cosmic horror does not stem from a sudden, violent realization, but from the slow, creeping understanding of a ubiquitous lie that we have lived with since the dawn of our species. When a human being steps out into the cool dark of a clear night and turns their eyes upward, they are immediately washed in a profound sense of tranquility. The night sky is the ultimate symbol of eternal stillness, a vast, silent canopy of diamond dust stars that has watched over the rise and fall of countless empires. We weave myths around these constellations, relying on their unwavering positions to navigate our oceans and mark the passage of our seasons. Yet, this entire experience is a devastating sensory deception, a biological illusion orchestrated by the sheer, incomprehensible scale of the universe. The serene, static sky is the greatest lie ever told. The terrifying truth is that we are not at rest, and the cosmos is anything but peaceful. We are currently plummeting through the dark at a velocity that shatters human comprehension, hurtling downward into a gravitational abyss. The reason we feel no wind against our faces, the reason the stars do not appear to blur past us in a chaotic streak of light, is due to the sinister, absolute nature of a uniform cosmic freefall. We are trapped in an elevator whose cables have been cleanly severed, but the elevator is the size of an entire galaxy cluster, because the Earth, the Sun, the Milky Way, and all of our neighboring galaxies within the local group are falling at the exact same terrifying rate. We are deprived of any local frame of reference. We look at the passengers falling next to us and falsely conclude that we are all simply floating in a state of tranquil grace. This is the ultimate paralyzing terror of our existence. We are completely blind to the mechanics of our own execution. We are participating in a catastrophic cosmic landslide, yet our biological senses are entirely oblivious to the monumental currents carrying us toward the dark. To counter this blinding ignorance, astrophysicists have waged a desperate, decades-long war against the impenetrable veil of the Zone of Avoidance, deploying the most sophisticated instruments ever conceived in a frantic attempt to map the jaws of the predator. Knowing that the optical spectrum is a dead end, hopelessly swallowed by the dense, suffocating soot of our own galactic disk, scientists have forced their mechanical eyes to see in wavelengths far beyond human capability. They turn to infrared astronomy, exploiting the physical reality that longer wavelengths of light can step over the microscopic grains of cosmic dust, sliding through the shadows to bring back the thermal signatures of whatever lurks behind the wall. They deployed orbital observatories designed to capture the violent, high-energy screams of X-ray radiation, seeking the apocalyptic friction generated when entire galaxy clusters are crushed together in the gravitational vice of the anomaly. These technological efforts are born from a desperate, primal need to pull back the curtain and finally look the monster in the eye. But the universe refuses to grant us a clear, comforting picture of our demise. The data that filters back through the cosmic smog does not present a neat, easily categorized astronomical object. Instead, what emerges from the infrared shadows and X-ray flashes is a fractured, terrifying mosaic of destruction. We do not see the Great Attractor itself. We only see the horrific aftermath of its hunger. We observe spectral phantoms, the distorted, red-shifted silhouettes of thousands of galaxies being violently dragged toward a single, unseen focal point. We detect massive, boiling reservoirs of intergalactic gas, superheated to millions of degrees by the relentless, crushing pressure of converging galaxies, radiating a blinding, unseen light that paints a picture of a localized cosmic hell. The instruments do not reveal a stationary structure, but an active, churning slaughterhouse where the foundational architecture of the universe is being dismantled. We piece together these jagged shards of data like forensic investigators trying to reconstruct a colossal, ancient leviathan based entirely on the blood trails it leaves in the ocean current. We map the bleeding edges of the Norma Cluster, the Centaurus Cluster, and the Hydra-Centaurus Supercluster, watching as they all blindly cascade down the exact same gravity well, but the ultimate core, the absolute bottom of the abyss, remains maddeningly obscured by the thickest regions of our own galactic dust. This technological desperation only amplifies the profound philosophical dread of our situation. We have evolved just enough intelligence to build the tools necessary to prove that we are doomed, yet we remain entirely powerless to alter the trajectory of our plunge. We stand upon our microscopic terrestrial shores, wielding our infrared sensors and X-ray mirrors like tiny, fragile lanterns against an encroaching, suffocating darkness, capturing only fleeting, terrifying glimpses of the sheer mechanical violence that awaits us. The scale of insignificance here is absolute. The human endeavor, with all its art, war, love, and ambition, is playing out on a microscopic stage that is currently in the grip of a force so monumental that it bends the very geometry of the void. We are scientifically aware of the massive, dark current dragging us into the unknown, yet we must wake up every day and continue to operate under the comforting, necessary delusion that the ground beneath our feet is solid and the sky above our heads is still. The Great Attractor remains the ultimate looming shadow, a testament to a universe that is vast, uncaring, and entirely beyond our control, pulling our entire existence toward a horizon from which no light and no memory will ever escape. Just as the human mind begins to acclimate to the crushing reality of the Great Attractor, the universe delivers a secondary, infinitely more devastating psychological blow. The entire narrative we have constructed thus far, the terrifying portrait of the Norma Cluster acting as the ultimate cosmic slaughterhouse, is fundamentally flawed. It is a terrifying truth that in the realm of astrophysics, solving one mystery almost invariably unearths a darker, more insurmountable terror lying in wait beneath it. When astronomers finally manage to pierce the localized dust and calculate the estimated mass of the Great Attractor, meticulously adding up the X-ray emissions of the boiling intergalactic gas and the gravitational footprint of the colliding galaxies within the Norma and Centaurus regions, a chilling discrepancy emerged from the mathematics. The numbers simply did not balance. The gravitational accounting was catastrophically short. The mass we could physically detect, even when generously factoring in the invisible, vast scaffolding of dark matter that binds these clusters together, was only sufficient to account for roughly 40% of our measured velocity. The math declared an impossible reality. The Great Attractor, for all its horrifying density and localized violence, lacked the gravitational teeth to pull a structure as massive as the Laniakea Supercluster at a speed of over 2 million kilometers per hour. To put this into a comprehensible perspective, it is akin to realizing that the massive, terrifying locomotive pulling your runaway train is actually operating on a fraction of the necessary horsepower, meaning there must be an entirely different, unseen engine further up the track doing the actual heavy lifting. The Great Attractor, the monstrous gravitational anomaly that has haunted our cosmic maps and fueled our existential dread for decades, is not the true master of our destiny. It is merely a symptom, a localized eddy in a much larger, darker, and more violent current. It is nothing but a cosmic middleman. This revelation forces us to look past the dense, chaotic traffic of the Norma Cluster, peering even deeper into the dust-choked void of the Zone of Avoidance. When we push our technological limits, staring across a staggering, mind-bending distance of over 650 million light-years, the true architect of our descent finally bleeds through the static. It is a structure so vast, so unfathomably dense, that it makes the Great Attractor look like a trivial, fleeting cosmic afterthought. We call it the Shapley Supercluster. If our home supercluster of Laniakea is a sprawling, immense river basin, then Shapley is the bottomless, churning ocean into which it endlessly, violently pours. The Shapley Supercluster represents the most massive concentration of matter in the entire observable local universe, a gravitational titan of such supreme magnitude that it single-handedly anchors the structural integrity of our massive sector of the cosmos. It contains the mass of tens of thousands of Milky Way galaxies, a swirling, violent hive of galactic clusters that generates a gravity well so unbelievably deep and steep that it dictates the movement of space itself across a radius of billions of light-years. The Great Attractor is not pulling us. It is being violently pulled itself. The terrifying gravitational machine we thought was the end of our line is, in reality, just another helpless passenger on a much larger vessel. Our entire Laniakea supercluster, with all its majestic glowing filaments and hundreds of thousands of galaxies, is currently engaged in a massive, synchronized freefall toward the crushing core of Shapley. We are essentially trapped inside a sinking ship that is, in turn, being swallowed whole by an unseen leviathan. This layered, nested reality of our doom amplifies the scale of human insignificance to a level that borders on the absurd. We have spent millennia believing our tiny rock was the firm, unmoving center of creation, only to discover we are orbiting a star that is hurtling through the spiraling arms of a galaxy, which is plunging toward a massive anomaly, which is itself tumbling helplessly toward a truly godlike concentration of mass. We are microscopic parasites clinging to a speck of dust, caught in a cosmic landslide, falling into a canyon, crashing toward a bottomless abyss. The illusion of our gravitational autonomy is shattered at every conceivable geometric level. The Shapley Supercluster acts as the ultimate, unseen puppet master, sitting deep within the suffocating dark, pulling the immense gravitational strings of the Great Attractor, which in turn yanks violently on the local group, dragging the Milky Way and our tiny, fragile solar system along for the ride. The sheer mechanical horror of this setup lies in its relentless, nested efficiency. Every structure in the cosmos, no matter how vast or seemingly permanent, is entirely subservient to a larger, heavier master. The hierarchy of gravity is absolute, and we reside at the absolute bottom of the food chain. The internal mechanics of the Shapley Supercluster defy human sanity. It is not merely a collection of galaxies. It is a sprawling, highly active war zone of cosmic proportions. Within its core, massive clusters of galaxies are smashing into one another at velocities that generate shock waves spanning millions of light-years. The intergalactic medium within Shapley is so violently compressed and heated by these titanic collisions that it radiates a blinding halo of X-ray energy, a spectral beacon of death that managed to travel 650 million years through the void just to hit the lenses of our orbital telescopes. It is a region of space where the fundamental forces of nature are dialed to their absolute maximum, a crucible where galaxies are stripped of their gas, deformed and mercilessly swallowed by hypermassive black holes that reign over the center of the swarm. This is the true destination of the Milky Way. This is the ultimate furnace toward which our entire cosmic neighborhood is being irrevocably marched. The discovery of Shapley forces us to fundamentally question the very limits of our cosmic geography. and the nature of the reality we inhabit. If the Great Attractor was a localized deception, a false flag hiding the true, monstrous source of our acceleration, how can we be absolutely certain that Shapley is the final destination? The universe has consistently proven itself to be an infinitely deep ocean of Russian nesting dolls, where every apex predator we manage to identify is eventually revealed to be nothing more than fleeing prey for something exponentially larger lurking in the uncharted shadows. The cosmic microwave background radiation continues to show our fierce, undeniable velocity, a permanently blue-shifted fever dream etched into the oldest light of creation, refusing to let us rest. As we are dragged across the endless void, the space between us and the Shapley Supercluster is slowly, agonizingly shrinking. The hundreds of millions of light-years separating our galaxy from this ultimate crushing machine represent an incomprehensible distance to the human mind, a gap so vast that light itself grows weary crossing it. Yet, in the grand sweeping timelines of the universe, this distance is merely a brief, silent commute to the executioner's block. We are not just falling, we are being violently reeled in by a hierarchy of unseen monsters, each one dwarfing the last, pulling us deeper and deeper into a dark, heavy region of space where the density of matter directly defies and overpowers the expansive nature of the cosmos itself. The universe is not a peaceful void dotted with majestic, floating islands of light. It is a chaotic, turbulent battlefield of gravitational giants. Humanity is nothing more than incidental collateral damage, a fleeting biological spark caught in the crossfire of cosmic titans we will never truly comprehend, chained to a trajectory that leads only to the absolute, crushing heart of the dark. The fragile human psyche relies heavily on the concept of boundaries to maintain its sanity. We draw lines on maps to contain the terrifying vastness of our planet, and we rely on the fundamental laws of physics to build a theoretical wall around our cosmos, creating a safe, comprehensible enclosure. For decades, the ultimate comfort blanket for astrophysicists was the concept of the observable universe. We are anchored to the absolute speed limit of reality, the speed of light. Because the universe has a finite age, born roughly 13.8 billion years ago, there is a spherical horizon surrounding Earth beyond which we simply cannot see. Even if the cosmos stretches on forever, the light from objects beyond this absolute boundary has not had enough time to reach our telescopes. This edge of causality acts as a conceptual quarantine zone. Whatever lies beyond the observable universe, no matter how chaotic or violent, was mathematically and physically severed from our reality, unable to affect us, touch us, or harm us. We felt safely isolated in our own magnificent bubble of light and time. But the cosmos possesses a cruel talent for shattering our most desperate illusions of safety. When astronomers zoomed out past the localized Slaughterhouse of the Norma Cluster and looked entirely beyond the massive churning ocean of the Shapley Supercluster, they began to analyze the grandest scale of motion possible. They examined the kinetic behavior of entire superclusters, tracking the migration of thousands of these colossal structures across billions of light-years. What they discovered fundamentally broke the quarantine of our reality and introduced an anomaly so chilling, so profoundly disturbing, that it borders on the supernatural. They found the dark flow. Imagine looking at a vast, scattered flock of birds, expecting them to be flying randomly, only to realize that every single bird across the entire sky is silently, uniformly gliding toward a single, unseen point on the horizon. This is what the universe is doing. On a scale that reduces the Milky Way to a subatomic particle and makes the Laniakea and Shapley superclusters look like mere drifting leaves, an incomprehensible swath of the observable universe is flowing like a unified, silent river of reality. Hundreds of millions of galaxies, comprising a significant fraction of everything we can see, are being dragged simultaneously toward a specific patch of the sky nestled between the constellations of Centaurus and Vela. This is not the localized, messy collapsing of a gravity well like the Great Attractor. This is a smooth, continuous, unrelenting current that encompasses a volume of space stretching for billions of light years. The sheer mechanical terror of the dark flow lies in its absolute defiance of the mass we can account for. We have mapped the matter in our observable universe. We know where the dark matter heavily congregates and where the luminous matter burns. Yet when we calculate the total gravitational pull of every single galaxy, every black hole, and every supercluster within our sphere of existence, the math violently fails. There is absolutely nothing inside the observable universe that possesses the titanic, godlike mass required to drag a billion light-years of cosmic real estate in one direction. The architecture of our reality is fundamentally incapable of generating a current this vast. By the strict process of scientific elimination, humanity is forced to confront a conclusion that reads like the darkest of cosmic horror fiction. If the entity pulling us does not exist within the observable universe, then it must reside outside of it. The ultimate predator hunting the Milky Way is lurking entirely beyond the edge of causality. We are being violently reeled in by a megastructure that we are physically, mathematically, and temporally forbidden from ever seeing. It resides in the unobservable universe, a region of space permanently cloaked in a darkness that predates the birth of light itself, an abyss that we can never reach, never map, and never comprehend. How is it possible that something beyond the speed of light horizon is affecting us? The answer lies in the terrifying infancy of the cosmos. In the first microscopic fractions of a second after the Big Bang, during an event known as cosmic inflation, the fabric of the universe expanded at a rate billions of times faster than the speed of light. Structures and anomalies that were intimately tangled together in the primordial soup were violently ripped apart and thrown beyond each other's observable horizons. The phantom entity pulling us was once right next door, close enough to sink its gravitational teeth deep into the flesh of our local space-time before the universe rapidly inflated, pushing the monster itself beyond the veil of time, but leaving its gravitational grip permanently locked onto our superclusters. Gravity, in this horrifying context, acts as a ghost chain stretching across the boundary of existence. It is the only force capable of reaching out from the unobservable dark to remind us that our sanctuary is a lie. What exactly is this entity? The human mind lacks the architecture to even conceptualize a structure of this magnitude. It is an anomaly that makes the Shapley Supercluster look like a trivial speck of dust. Some theoretical physicists whisper that it might be a concentration of mass so infinite that it represents a catastrophic defect in the fabric of the multiverse. Others suggest it could be a gargantuan primordial black hole, a remnant of a previous universe that survived the Big Bang, resting in the absolute dark, slowly consuming the bleeding edges of our reality. It is a dead zone of incomprehensible proportions, a region where the laws of physics might be so violently warped by gravity that time and space cease to function in any recognizable way. We are not just falling down a well, we are being dragged out the door of our own universe. The psychological devastation of the dark flow stems from the utter helplessness it imposes upon us. With the Great Attractor and the Shapley Supercluster, we at least maintained the illusion that if our technology became advanced enough, we might one day map their parameters and understand the faces of our executioners. But the source of the dark flow is permanently redacted from reality. Light from this behemoth will never reach Earth. Even if humanity survives for another trillion years, even if we conquer our galaxy and harness the energy of a billion stars, we will never, ever see what is pulling us. We are blindfolded hostages, locked in the trunk of a car, feeling the vehicle relentlessly accelerate, knowing with absolute certainty that we are heading toward a destination, yet completely aware that we will never see the driver. The universe has reduced all of human endeavor, all of our scientific triumphs, our philosophies, and our desperate search for meaning, to a silent, involuntary migration toward the absolute unknown. Every second that you breathe, the Earth moves hundreds of kilometers, the solar system spirals, the Milky Way plummets, Laniakea cascades, and Shapley itself is dragged along the cosmic current of the dark flow. We are nested inside a matryoshka doll of gravitational doom, where every layer we peel back only reveals a darker, heavier, and more monstrous tyrant waiting beneath. The serene night sky above us is a painted veil hiding a churning, violent conveyor belt of reality, relentlessly feeding the mass of our universe into a mouth that exists entirely outside the boundaries of existence. When we look at the cosmic microwave background, we are not just seeing the afterglow of creation. We are seeing the bruised and battered fabric of space-time actively groaning under the weight of an unseen leviathan. We are drifting through the dark, microscopic biological anomalies, clinging to a cold rock, participating in an exodus that we cannot stop, toward a cosmic graveyard we cannot see. The true horror of our cosmic situation is not simply that we are small, or that our time is brief. It is the inescapable, crushing realization that the entire theater of our existence is actively being tilted, and we are helplessly sliding into an abyss that the universe itself has hidden from our eyes forever. As our journey through the architecture of the cosmos reaches its terrifying conclusion, we are forced to reevaluate everything we thought we knew about our place in the dark. We began with the comforting illusion of a static, peaceful night sky, a canvas of stars that seemed to belong to us, only to have that delusion violently stripped away by the unrelenting mechanics of gravity. We have traced the descent of the Milky Way into the suffocating blind spot of the Zone of Avoidance, confronting the localized Slaughterhouse of the Norma Cluster and the staggering biological currents of the Laniakea Supercluster. We have watched our gravitational autonomy disintegrate entirely in the shadow of the Shapley Supercluster, and finally, we have stared into the permanent, unobservable void of the dark flow, acknowledging that our ultimate executioner is a phantom we will never be permitted to see. The universe is not a sanctuary. It is a sprawling, indifferent mechanism of consumption, a chaotic hierarchy of falling objects where the strong relentlessly devour the weak, and where our entire civilization is nothing more than incidental dust caught in the crushing gears. To comprehend this is to experience a profound existential vertigo. The human mind, which has spent its brief evolutionary history striving for dominance over a microscopic rock, is simply not equipped to process the sheer scale of its own irrelevance. We build towering monuments to our vanity. We split the atom, and we broadcast our voices into the void, desperately demanding to be recognized as significant actors in the cosmic play. Yet the Great Attractor, the Shapley mass, and the unseen leviathan of the dark flow offer no response. They do not care about the spark of consciousness that flickers on the surface of the Earth. They operate on a scale where the birth and death of entire galaxies are merely trivial fluctuations in the overall current of reality. Gravity, the ultimate and uncontested dictator of existence, remains completely blind to our struggles, our fears, and our fragile, beautiful capacity for wonder. As you step outside tonight and look up at the glittering expanse of the Milky Way, allow the silence of the void to wash over you. But do not be deceived by its tranquility. The stars you see are not fixed beacons of eternity. They are fellow captives, glowing embers trapped in the exact same rushing current, falling alongside us into the dark. Every constellation you can name is being dragged toward a horizon from which no light will ever return. We are a species uniquely cursed with the intelligence to map out our own inescapable doom, yet entirely powerless to change its course. We are passengers on a vessel with no steering wheel, hurtling through a pitch-black ocean toward a maelstrom that defies the very laws of physics. So what is left for us in the face of such absolute cosmic horror? Perhaps the only defiance we possess is the act of knowing. We cannot stop the relentless pull of the Great Attractor, nor can we pierce the veil of the unobservable universe to confront the monster in the dark. But we can look out into the terrifying, rushing abyss with our eyes wide open. We can continue to measure the heat of the void, trace the bleeding edges of falling galaxies, and document the mechanics of our own demise with unwavering precision. And as the Milky Way plunges deeper into the gravitational abyss, swallowed by a silence that has been waiting for us since the dawn of time, we will at least know exactly where we are going, even if we are forever terrified of what is waiting for us in the dark.